My name's Elise Carter, and I've learned the power of silence. It was a humid Saturday night in Charleston, South Carolina, and my sister was hosting her engagement dinner at our childhood home. Everyone was there, relatives I hadn't seen in years, neighbors who still remembered me as quiet little Elise, and old family friends who never asked the right questions. The dining room buzzed with laughter, heavy with Southern charm and judgment. The wine flowed, the gossip ran unchecked, and every few minutes, someone's eyes would drift toward me, like I was a stray thread in an otherwise perfect tapestry. "You still driving that old blue Corolla?" someone called out, loud enough to get a laugh from half the table. My sister Meredith flashed a sweet fake smile. "Elise is just super low maintenance, always has been." Her fiancé chuckled, not unkindly. He didn't catch the sharp edge in her tone, but I did. Everyone else did too. I just smiled and sipped my iced tea. No defense. No need. Then, as dessert plates clinked and silverware settled, her fiancé leaned over and asked, totally random, but, "When I was in Napa last month, I saw a private jet on the tarmac. It said Carter Innovations on the tail. Any relation?" The silence that fell was almost physical. Even the AC seemed to hush. I didn't look up, just said softly, "Yeah, that's mine." The moment stretched. Someone dropped a spoon. They'd spent years painting me as the eccentric one, the one who moved to Denver at 24, didn't marry, didn't come home for Easter, and didn't post curated selfies with pumpkin spice lattes. I used to try sent birthday cards, offered to cover dinner, even once paid part of my nephew's summer camp tuition. Meredith later told everyone I was trying to embarrass her. That was the last time I offered. The truth? I left Charleston because I needed air. I spent the first years broke, working late shifts at a tech support desk, and living in a one-bedroom with paper-thin walls. Carter Innovations started as a weekend project. Just me and a second-hand laptop, building a routing tool for food delivery drivers. No investors, no mentors, just code, ramen, and an idea. It moves millions of packages and the room. 3 years later, a logistics firm in Singapore stumbled upon my software and sent a short email. Had I ever considered scaling it? I hadn't. But I did. With little more than stubbornness and caffeine, I built it out, version after version. By 32, I secured a small seed round. Then came Series A. By 35, I had an office in downtown Denver, a tight-knit team of engineers and product leads, and clients across 5 continents. When a major North American carrier acquired us, the deal included a confidentiality clause and enough zeros to erase any doubts about whether I'd made it. But I kept the Corolla. Not out of necessity, out of preference. It kept things quiet, gave people room to assume. To my family, none of it mattered. They didn't ask about the business or where I went on my solo holidays. They noticed the thrift store sweaters, the lack of luxury handbags. They saw absence and filled in the blanks with pity. "Elise has always been independent," Mom would say at family dinners, her voice too light to be warm. "Didn't want the whole husband and kids life." An aunt once leaned over at Thanksgiving and murmured, "Well, at least Meredith settled down." At first, it stung. Then it amused me. Now, it was just background static. They thought I was struggling because I didn't flaunt money in the ways they understood, because I didn't ask for approval, because I wasn't trying to earn my way back into their circle. Still, I went to Meredith's engagement dinner, not for them, for me. Watching their faces freeze when her fiancé mentioned that jet, that wasn't planned. But it was satisfying. There was a time I thought love, especially family love, could be bargained for. That if I just worked hard enough, sent enough gifts, remembered every birthday, I'd be accepted. At 28, I landed in the hospital with a ruptured appendix that turned septic. Weeks in recovery, my Craigslist roommate fed me soup. My family never called. That's when I stopped expecting anything. No more holiday texts, no more emotional offerings. I still showed up at the big events. Still brought candles or wine or a handmade card. To let them believe I was the eccentric sister. Because letting them keep their illusion was easier than explaining the truth. And because, despite everything, a quiet part of me still hoped. I showed up, hoping maybe something would shift. That, just once, someone might ask what I was working on and actually listen. That they'd see me not as a failure to mimic, but as someone who forged her own path and made it. It never happened. When Carter Innovations exploded, I didn't tell them. Not when I hired my first full-time engineer. Not when we hit $2 million 0 cents in recurring revenue. Not even when I signed the acquisition deal that would let me retire twice before 40. Why would I? They wouldn't have believed me. Or worse, they'd weaponize it. Mom would say I was showing off. Meredith would whisper to her friends that I was probably lying again. So I learned to celebrate in silence. I funneled the money into a new venture, this time, not under my name, a clean energy logistics hub outside Boulder. Practical, scalable, it created real jobs. I kept my head down and my receipts private. I flew coach even when I didn't have to. I let the spotlight shine on others. My team knew who I was. My investors trusted me. That was enough. And somewhere along the way, I changed too. I no longer craved a seat at their table. I built my own, quietly, piece by piece, without applause. So, yes, there was a certain poetic irony when, after years of keeping my head low, the truth came out. By accident, over dessert, out of his mouth, not mine. I knew Meredith would hate it because in her version of the story, she was the golden one, the chosen daughter, the face of success. The house, the ring, the curated honeymoon hashtag, she owned it all. Didn't come to her dinner to disrupt that. But when life drops a moment like that into your lap, you don't flinch. You hold your wine glass steady, you smile, and you let it sit. Undeniable and unbothered, right in the middle of their perfect table. The backyard sparkled with white lights, navy linens, gold cutlery, the chef plated lamb with a flourish. Meredith beamed like royalty. I arrived 20 minutes late, not to make a scene, just to miss the part where I had to pretend. I parked a block away and walked the final stretch in heels I'd bought on clearance at a Denver outlet mall. No label, no logo, just comfort and quiet confidence. The kind you earn from years of being underestimated. I slipped in through the side gate. No fanfare, just me. Mom met me at the patio doors, voice dipped in syrup. Elise, we weren't sure you'd come. Translation, we hoped you wouldn't. Meredith appeared moments later, dressed like the thumbnail of a wedding magazine cover. Champagne silk, a ring that screamed, "Look again," and that ever-familiar glint in her eyes when she saw me. You look cozy, she said, eyes scanning my simple black sheath dress. Still love your classic pieces. Classic was her favorite euphemism for cheap. Simple, practical, modest, always said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I just smiled back, good to see you too. Around the long candlelit table, the chatter buzzed. Cheers for my niece landing an internship at a boutique PR agency. Applause for our cousin's boyfriend's promotion at Chase. Meredith glowed as everyone asked about the wedding planner, the honeymoon, the designer dress. No one asked what I'd been working on. They never did. I was the backdrop, the eccentric, the girl who moved away and never came back with a ring or baby photos. They didn't know how to measure me, so they wrote me out of the success story. By the third course, the teasing started. Uncle Jeff leaned in. Still got that old Honda, Elise. I swear it's older than your nephew. Laughter followed. Warm, familiar, laced with the kind of affection that smothers you. Oh, remember those handmade Christmas gifts? Someone added. Who makes their own candles anymore? Meredith sighed. Faux sweet. She's always been grounded, doesn't care about appearances. She turned to her fiancé like it was a punchline, right? He looked at me, a tilt of curiosity in his voice. Wait. Elise Carter? Carter Innovations? Meredith blinked. What? He went on. eyebrows raised. "We saw your name on a jet in St. Bart's. Gulfstream G600. The concierge said the owner was based in Denver." You could feel the pause in the air. Forks frozen. Glasses mid-lift. I looked up slowly, met his eyes, and said, calm as ever, "Yeah, that's mine." If you felt that moment of quiet triumph too, don't forget to subscribe. There's more to Elise's story, and the next chapter might just surprise you. My cousin's jaw practically hit his plate. My mother's eyes narrowed, calculating, like she was rewriting a lifetime of assumptions in real time. "Meredith?" She went pale, visibly, unmistakably pale, and her fiancé just stared, mouth slightly open, words forming and evaporating before they left his lips. Finally, he blinked. "Wait, you're the one who closed that deal with Eastern Freight last year? That merger was massive." I didn't answer. Ever. Didn't need to. The truth was already louder than anything I could say. Meredith let out a short, brittle laugh. "She's joking." Then, softer. "Right?" I folded my napkin, placed it on my plate, and stood up calmly. "Actually, I've got an early flight." My mother's voice came quickly. "But dessert's not even out yet." "I know." Every head followed me as I moved around the table. People who had spent years ignoring me, underestimating me, suddenly racing to fit me into a new story. But I wasn't there to help them rewrite the script. As I reached the side gate, I heard a whisper ripple behind me. "She has a jet?" No one followed, and I didn't look back. The walk to my car felt longer than usual. Maybe it was the weight of the silence, still clinging to the streamlit backyard like smoke. Or maybe it was the strange, clean lightness in my chest. Like I'd finally put something down I didn't realize I'd been carrying. I slid into the driver's seat, closed the door, and sat still for a moment. Hands on the wheel, eyes straight ahead. The porch lights still glowed behind me. Inside, I knew Meredith was already reconstructing the narrative. Maybe I won the lottery. Maybe I'd exaggerated. Maybe I was someone else's assistant. Anything to keep herself the center of the family myth. But this time, the story had slipped out of her hands. She wasn't the one holding the pen anymore. And for the first time, I didn't care whether they believed me. Because the truth didn't come from me, it came from someone they respected. Someone they still wanted to impress. That made it real in a way I never could have made it. I didn't plan the moment, but it arrived anyway, clean, quiet, unstoppable. And as I drove home, windows down, night air cool on my face, I finally felt it. The peace of not having to explain your worth to anyone. Later that night, just past midnight, my phone buzzed. A message from Meredith's fiancé. "Sorry if that was awkward tonight. Didn't mean to put you on the spot, just really respect what you've built." His message came just after midnight. I stared at the screen for a long time before typing a reply. "Thanks. I'm used to awkward." That wasn't awkward, that was clarity. He read it immediately, left a simple thumbs up. That was enough. I lay back in bed, the ceiling above me soft and blank. A quiet canvas where old memories painted themselves without asking. I remembered being 12, sitting on the back porch steps while Meredith opened presents in the dining room. Her birthday party, friends only. I'd helped Mom bake the cake, but no one saved me a slice. I remembered prom night, watching from behind the curtains as my cousin twirled in the yard, corsage flashing, relatives smiling. I didn't get asked. No one wondered if I'd found a dress. I remembered my father, long gone now, tousling my hair with a chuckle. "She's the practical one, the other one's the pretty one." Tiny words, small cuts. Over time, they become invisible scars. The next morning, a text from my mother. "Why didn't you ever tell us about your business?" I didn't answer, not out of bitterness, just because the question wasn't curiosity. It was control, an attempt to rewrite a history too painful to admit that they never asked. By noon, a cousin I hadn't heard from in over a year sent a chirpy message. "Coffee? Would love to catch up." Then another. Suddenly, I was interesting. Suddenly, I mattered. But I'd waited too long for those invitations. They meant nothing now. I declined each one politely, no anger, just clarity. 2 days later, My assistant confirmed the Gulfstream was ready for a new charter out of St. Bart's. I booked a last-minute seat not to run, but to release. In the cabin, I cradled a glass of mineral water, watching the clouds break over the Atlantic. Sunlight caught the wing, carving a silver path through sky. And I smiled, not because I was flying private, but because I was flying free. Not every battle needs noise. Not every truth needs an audience. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away. Quietly, confidently, while the room still waits for an explanation. For years, I believed my worth lived in their approval. Now I know better. My worth was always mine. It lived in every sleepless night, every line of code, every silent choice to keep going. When no one clapped and no one cared. It lives in every team I built, every risk I took when failure seemed like the only certainty. It lives in the decisions made behind closed doors, the contracts signed after months of silence, the clients who trusted me when no one else did. It lives in how I chose not to harden, how I stayed soft, stayed open, even when they gave me every reason to turn away. It lives in the quiet, in the calm, in me. I used to think closure required confrontation, that if I could just explain myself well enough, show them every timeline, every sleepless night, every scar, they'd see me. But closure isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a plane ride away from people who never asked the right questions. It's the quiet click of a door closing, not with anger, just finality. My family still talks, I know they do. They reshape the story, turn me into a mystery. Sometimes, even a cautionary tale. Has he changed? She thinks she's better. He forgot her roots. Let them? Because I've outgrown their version of me. I don't live in that story anymore. I don't need to be understood by people who never looked past the outline. I don't need applause from a table where I was always the afterthought. I don't need to hear, "We were wrong about you." I already know they were. What I needed, what I fought so long to find, was peace. And I found it the moment I stopped folding myself into something they could recognize. Let them talk. I live in rooms they'll never enter. I build what they'll never see. I move without their permission. And that, in its own quiet way, is power. I didn't walk into that dinner to prove anything, but they saw it anyway. Because truth doesn't need a spotlight. It just needs a moment. And when that moment comes, you don't flinch. You simply exist, fully, freely, and let the silence say the rest. If you've ever been the quiet one, the overlooked one, the person rewriting their life from the outside in, I'd love to hear from you. Share your story in the comments, or just leave a few words of support. I read every one. Sometimes, what we need most isn't to be applauded, it's to be seen. And if you're still in that in-between space, where your worth feels invisible, please don't shrink. Keep building, keep choosing yourself. The peace on the other side is real. Subscribe if this spoke to you. Our stories matter more than they ever let us believe.